Leaving Panama's Paradise, a journey from the Canal Zone to California. Prologue. Panama Canal Zone, June 1977. The rain pelted the Bohio's thatch roof, and Jesse McMillan sighed as the humidity seeped into his pores. For a microsecond, the midday tropical storm stilled the aching in his gut, but the wrenching on his insides returned as he watched through the liquid curtain of the tropical land he loved and would soon lose. How he wanted to stand here forever, at least until someone told him Carter wouldn't sign the treaty that would take away his home. Hearing a cough, Jesse turned to find Randy Strickland shaking himself off and wiping wisps of red hair out of his face. "Earth to Jesse, I walked right by you." "Where the hell were you?" Randy asked. Jesse shrugged. "Nowhere. Sometimes I worry." "You worry? Yeah, right," Jesse said and snorted. "What's that supposed to mean?" Randy pulled a rumpled Marlboro pack out of his jeans pocket and extracted a joint. "I'm a serious individual." Jesse ignored Randy's lame stab at humor. "Any word from Sam?" "No. He's probably hiding out with some buddies and won't come out until the heat's off." Jesse leaned on the edge of the picnic table that sat under the bohio, gazing out at the gauzy green landscape. "It's been 3 weeks, Randy. He's probably hidden deep in a Panamanian jail, or maybe he's tied to cement blocks in the canal." "Don't talk that way, man. You could be a real downer." Randy took 2 deep toques of the joint and offered it to Jesse. "No thanks." Jesse fanned the sweet smell of marijuana out of his face. Randy raised his eyebrows. "Look, you worry too much. Everything's under control. Sam will be back soon. I know it." "You don't worry enough," said Jesse. "You're playing it way too close." Randy's thin face puckered as he took another toke. Half moons rimmed the underside of his eyes from late nights partying. "Listen, as soon as Sam gets back, our operation will be back to normal." "Nothing is ever going to be back to normal," said Jesse. "You mean the treaty? Things won't change that much. It'll be business as usual. Once a Zonian, always a Zonian, right?" Jesse opened his mouth to answer, but shut it. Randy obviously didn't feel the same fist in his heart. He wasn't on the same brakeless, downhill ride Jesse had been on ever since they heard about the treaty signing. "Your problem is that you're just too stressed out, Jess. Stay mellow. Things will be cool. You'll see," Randy intoned as he blew a fat, clumsy smoke ring into the heavy air. The sky rumbled, making conversation impossible. Just as well, Jesse watched transfixed as rain thrashed the leaves of a nearby palm tree, announcing that things would never be the same. Chapter 1, Irving, California, December 20th, 1989. Jesse stood at the stove waiting for his grilled cheese to toast to golden perfection. With a spatula, he edged up a corner and peeked below. Not yet. Plucking a dart out of the board of his kitchen wall, he stepped back, aimed at Jimmy Carter's forehead, and let it fly. "Bullseye," he yelled, hitting the former president's photo in between the eyes. Millicent, Jesse's cat, didn't flinch. She continued nibbling the food he'd just dropped onto her plate in the corner of the tiny kitchen. Jesse periodically changed Carter's photo because the former peanut farmer would become unrecognizable. Friends from Panama always threw a dart at him, often before they even got a beer. They'd curse him for signing the treaties that gave their home, the Canal Zone, an idyllic, Mayberry-like tropical community, back to the Panamanians. He inspected the grilled cheese again. Perfect. Turning off the stove, he slid the sandwich out of the pan and onto a paper towel, waiting only a couple of seconds for it to cool. He took a big bite, immediately regretting his impatience when the hot, melted cheese coated his tongue. He started to reach into the cupboard for a glass to get some water, but the phone rang, so he grabbed the receiver instead. "McMillan here." "Where the hell are you? You should be in here pounding out a page-turner on Panama. And why the hell isn't that kids on crack cocaine story on my desk?" Jesse turned on the tap and leaned over the sink to cup a handful of water in an attempt to cool the burn left on his tongue. "I'm working on it." He tried to sound convincing. The clock on the stove said 9. His boss, Bert Williams, was working late. "What's up?" "You're kidding, right? What planet are you on?" "Panama's upside down. I need copy now. Pull your head out of your ass and tell me you can come up with something besides an I'm scratching my balls newsflash. You lived in Panama, McMillan. I want inside dirt. Pronto." "I lived in the Canal Zone," corrected Jesse, his chest tightening at the mention of his childhood home. Yeah, in a colony right down the center of Panama. So don't tell me you never took a walk on the wild side. Bert was obviously fired up. What's going on there? An off-duty Marine was shot, and that dictator Noriega annulled the recent election, so the U.S. sent in thousands of our soldiers to get things under control in Panama and arrest him for drug trafficking, but he's on the loose. Panama's getting hit hard. The troops even bombed parts of El Coriolo. Now the area is burning and locals are looting. President Bush is calling it Operation Just Cause. Jesse didn't respond. You still there? Turn on the damn TV and tune into the rest of the world. His boss sounded exasperated. Then shake it off and get your carcass in here. Jesse hung up and flipped on his television set. Sure enough, Panama filled just about every channel, replacing the Christmas programming that would have been on. A knot formed in his stomach as he strained to spot landmarks amidst the rioters swarming the streets while smoke billowed from burning buildings, a crappy way to see his former home after nearly a decade away from it. When Jesse arrived in the LA Times newsroom a half hour later and headed for his desk, Phil, the city news reporter, announced, "You finally decided to wake up and show up. Bert's been threatening to send a warrant out for you. I'm stuck here waiting on word from a source about a burglary in Santa Ana's City Hall. If I were you, I would have been here hours ago. At this rate, you're going to miss the scoop altogether." Only about 35, Phil had a tendency to hunch forward. That and thinning blonde hair made him look like someone teetering on the edge of 50. Since Jesse arrived at the paper 5 years before, Phil begrudged him. He'd wanted the investigative Latin American beat that Jesse landed because of his ability to speak Spanish and connection to Panama. Full of action and drama like drug busts and mafia-style murders, some days Jesse would love to give the beat to Phil, especially his recent story. At first, Jesse felt excited about the idea of uncovering the drug epidemic amongst kids on the streets of Santa Ana. Since studying journalism in college and learning about the profession's idols, investigative reporters who won Pulitzer Prizes for stories about social injustices like foster care system abuse and the plight of immigrant sweatshop workers, he dreamed of fearlessly digging for the truth and exposing reality on paper. He also wanted to do some good, and he figured if he could shine a light on kids as young as 11 hooked on heavy drugs, then maybe he could make a difference. Crossing fine lines turned out to be more exciting and fulfilling in his daydreams, though. Jesse thought about the sideways eye he found himself turning to rampant illegal drugs while working this story. The kids he'd seen hopped up on crack cocaine, a highly addictive street drug that had ravaged the barrio in recent years, haunted him and made him want to try to help every last one of them. He told a friend who worked at social services about the plight of the strung-out kids when he interviewed him for his expert opinion, but some days Jesse wondered what the hell he was doing. All this for a good story? Was it even friggin' worth it to wrestle with his conscience on a daily basis? To top off this shit show, as he interviewed drug users and low-level dealers, the name Gonzalez kept coming up. The grapevine identified him as a Mexican mafia drug lord, but whether he supplied the steady stream of crack was unclear. One day, as Jesse sat in the newsroom transcribing interview tapes, someone identifying himself as the right-hand man of Gonzalez called Jesse with a message. Jorge Hernandez told Jesse that Gonzalez wanted to set the record straight. He insisted that he had nothing to do with the sale of drugs to minors and wanted to go on the record stating just that. Initially, Jesse's blood raced when he thought about quoting Gonzalez in his story. Even Bert became excited at the idea, a feat for someone who only seemed to know cranky as his default. So far, even though Gonzalez supposedly wanted to talk, Jesse had only gotten quotes from Jorge, who kept insisting that El Jefe was too busy right now. Bert would freak if he knew that Jesse didn't have any direct quotes from Gonzalez yet. He jumped in his seat when his boss's paunch appeared next to his head. "Tell me the crack cocaine story is just about wrapped up, and you can put everything you've got into writing the inside scoop on Panama. I want a page-one view from the trenches. That's going to sell papers. One of the reasons I put you on this beat was because of your connection to Panama, so use it." "I don't know, boss. It's been a while since I lived there." "You shitting me, McMillan? You're a Zonian for crying out loud. Get on the horn and get me something that will make me look good with the publisher." "Have I ever let you down?" asked Jesse, interjecting more conviction into his tone than he felt. "No, and don't start. I want something on Panama before 3 a.m. Cut off." And I want a draft of the drug story on my desk by 9 in the morning with some juicy quotes from Gonzalez. You've been working on it for weeks. I don't care if you're still hammering away when the sun comes up. Bert lumbered back into his office and slammed the door. Other reporters liked to hope that Bert was simply bluster. They found it difficult to believe that he could be as callous as he sounded, but Jesse discovered his boss to be pretty transparent. Over the last 5 years, Jesse and Bert had worked many late nights together because the investigative work didn't sleep. A couple of years ago, Jesse had a bird's eye view of Bert's marriage falling apart. When the newsroom quieted down and it was just him and his boss, Jesse couldn't help but overhear the late night calls. At first, his boss apologized for not being home, but over time the exchanges turned nasty, and Jesse eventually heard Bert snarling about what sounded like suspicions of another man. Despite his personal troubles, or maybe because of them, Bert was Jesse's best editor ever. When he finished with Jesse's copy, it couldn't sound any better. Bert was smart, though, and it was just a matter of time before he found out the truth, that Jesse hadn't even gotten close to Gonzalez yet.